Hello and welcome to the ninth episode of the Horus Heresy Accountability Buddies podcast. I'm Jacob, and today I'm joined by
Dan.
Duncan.
Jack.
And John.
We're glad to have you with us here, listeners. Today we've got a really exciting show for you. We're going to talk about some hobby progress, and then we're going to be getting into some budget builds for the starter box. We've got a couple different legions lined up today. We're hoping over the next 2 to 3 shows tops to be able to cover all of them comprehensively and try to give everyone a foot in the door for various legions. So stick along with us, and we'll be happy to have you for the ride. As for hobby progress, who wants to get us started today?
I guess I can go. So one of my shipments of primer showed up. So I used all 8 cans in one day to prime all 40 jet bikes, 43 jet bike riders, because I threw a couple extra on there in case I wanted to swap out for sergeants. And then I primed the 9 rhinos that I found that were part of some of my older stuff. I spent last couple days cutting apart the checkerboard decals that I've been hoarding for a while for all of my jet bikes. And then some of the other decals that are going to go on those jet bikes. And then yesterday I went to the game store and they'd gotten a couple Kratos back in stock, so I picked 2 of those up to make a full squad of 3, and then started working on that before the call started. And if you hear clipping, that'll probably be what I'm working on today. So a lot of paint and hailing.
Exciting.
Moving forward.
Yeah. What about Dan? What have you been up to?
Well, so I started building my Kratos. I got the first assembly at one side put together. Then I decided to change gears. I actually built 5 beakies so I can prime them up and work on a test color scheme with that. I'm thinking I'm going to do the reds with the old, actually Forge World Word Bearers red, and then I actually have a Hex flip top pot of Blood Angels red or orange from way back in the day. So to give you that last final pop highlight on there for the reds. So I'm going to try, a white airbrush, appreciating, try the reds on there, see what I get. And I spent a bunch of time putting a list together. Besides working on the budget lists, I put together what I think is going to be my starting build for what I'm going to buy and put together for my Blood Angels. So I'm pretty happy with it. It's a Dawn of Revelation that I've got, I think, a good base on the table, and then all the stuff to swoop in down. And I don't know how good it'll be on the table, but I'm happy with it. And it mixes a couple of their specific units in and lets me use some upgrade bits I've already bought and some models I've already bought and do some converting and stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. I will say putting the models together, the Beakies was fun. Some feedback on that. So I know they've got the little notches in the arms for positioning them, but if you're worried that you won't be able to position them regularly or anything, it almost goes away, and it's hard to find that with a little bit of glue on there. It just kind of moves right through that positioning. It works okay, but it's not perfect. Little upset that they went to a slotted jump pack or backpack assembly instead of the old round, because now you have to do some sort of modification if you're using different backpacks. So if you want to use old backpacks on the new models or vice versa, you're going to have to either be eliminating part of the slot or adding a slot to the jump pack or backpack. And then the other thing that has irked me from forever with Games Workshop is that they cannot make a backpack without the sprue attachment being on the round circular knob. And it drives me crazy having to trim that out. It doesn't matter how well you snip it, a snip is flat and it's on a part that should be round. So you're always coming in with your X-Acto knife and trying to shape roundness out of a flat snip, and it always looks bad. And I wish there was a way they could come up with a way to sprue those differently to where it didn't come off the round power vents.
So
In seventh in Mark sevens, and it's still a problem.
you might want to try those God hand nippers I've recommended in the chat.
I
They
was.
cut really close. What I thought was really weird on those was there's no internal venting on those balls. It's flat. Every other sculpts we've ever had has had little like louvers inside those balls. So these ones are completely flat, which I thought was very odd.
I didn't even look at that detail. I hadn't noticed, but I also will say that there, for being a brand new release, there was a decent amount of flash on these models, and as always, the slots on the top of the backpacks have flash across them that is almost impossible to go in. I mean, it's about a knife blade distance, so you can go and stick a knife in there and try and eliminate it, but it's just a bunch of work, and it kind of sucks that it's a problem right off the bat with brand new boxes. But overall, yeah, that's what I worked on. But I want to give that feedback on building those guys, just because I thought it was interesting a few of the points that I saw out of it. So
Very cool. Sounds like you've been busy. Duncan, what have you been up to?
Oh, let's see here. I finished my new Sons of Horus Praetor. Mostly happy with how he turned out. Not really certain on how the power weapon turned out. I would have had an opinion on it when I put him on the table today in a game against Jack, but I didn't get to pull him out, so it happens. No big thing. Beyond that, I've got 10 more Reavers sitting over here assembled, other than their shoulder pads, and other than the backpack, the jump packs that they should have available. They are base coated, and I've got their zenithal highlight down. I haven't done anything else on them yet, but that's all I got there. I did get some of 5 of my daughter's Mark 6 Marines base coated, zenithal, and we got their candy red down. So those are done that way.
Ooh, I can't wait to see those.
You'll see them soon enough. She's working on them. She's got 16 or 20 of them assembled already. And that's really all I've got at this point.
She's making good progress. Wonderful.
Yeah, she's got a good teacher too. You've been kicking them out real nice.
Thank you, gentlemen. Got more stuff on the way this next week so we can get her the heads and stuff that she's wanting to put on. And then we'll start going from there. That's all I've got done.
Jack, have you been up to anything?
Only thing knockout this week was putting together a Charybdis, and I did that yesterday. It kind of got me behind this week. So, not productive, but I did do one thing.
Hey, just gotta keep moving forward. Doesn't matter what the project is or when it got done. You got something done. That's good news. I myself ended up getting a zenithal down on my clones for Star Wars Legion, and on about half of those I got the Apothecary White down on as well. With my Clan Wolf for Battletech, I finally got some oil pin wash started on those. I've been following along, both trying to remember what I did in the Matt Kane course, as well as circling back to a number of the Cult of Paint videos that are out there on YouTube. And so I've got now about 24 mechs that I need to finish glossing up and pen wash and then matte back down so that I can do some weathering and basing on it. But I'm very excited to be moving forward with those almost finished. Past that, I was able to hang out and do a little bit of list brewing for some guys. As 2 buddies got one of them. It was their first game of the new edition in yesterday. Pretty exciting. Got to see Iron Warriors square off against some Iron Hands. The Iron Warriors brought kind of the what I had in the box, and let's try out what had worked in the previous edition, versus the Iron Hands, which were pretty much purpose built for the new edition. So the Iron Hands, I think, were running 2 Derrideos, a Leviathan, 2 Contemptors, possibly more, and then Rite of Bitter Iron. So just a mess of Immortals scattered across the table. That list is raw. Probably almost as much, if not more so, huge blocks of Immortals with 3 up armor, 5 up invuln, 4 up feel no pain, because they gain line and heart of the Legion in Rite of Bitter Iron. They're tough, or they're Iron Hands, so they do get the pseudo toughness kick. They are lead 10 and stubborn, so it's almost impossible to dislodge them anywhere. And never mind, just the Deluge Dreadnought were present, as well as I think one Vigilator and one Disintegrator, or not Disintegrator, Grav Shredder more, as well as the Praetor getting the whole lid of the table. There were a lot of things learned that game. First and foremost among them was that the Typhon is in a real bad spot. It seems to have, unless we've missed it somewhere, basically lost its super heavy status. It's immune to crew stun and crew shaken, but you can still pop the gun off it, basically. And the gun, by being, I think it's AP3 or AP4 native, now it is Rending 4+, and it's Brutal 4 on a large blast template, but if he was going up against somebody who had a Rhino, the fact that now you've got to have that 1-2 punch of something blowing up the Rhino and then you hopefully bombing the contents is a little less. We understood that the Typhon was a big problem in the previous edition, and seeing it knocked down is generally positive, but may have been hit just a little. Yeah, and that's in addition to learning a couple things about how dreadnoughts work and how durable they are or are not, how helical targeting arrays work. Big day. Lots of things to. So, unfortunately, segue into our list challenge here. There may be some adjustments that I'll have to make. Lists be in keeping as far as practice what you preach. Making some adjustments for the sake of general health.
That's fair.
But we'll see. We'll be excited to talk about those. Speaking of which, are we ready to move into that challenge?
Actually, I'd like to speak about the game that Jack and I played today.
Wonderful. Hit me with it.
So Jack and I did 3,000 points aside, plus a super heavy of either of our choice. Since he has a glaive and I have a fellblade, and they match our forces, we kind of just threw those in on top to see how everything did. And we both kind of had an unwritten agreement to not shoot our super heavies at one another and just shoot them at other things to see how well they did or didn't do. Yeah. And we did it to show off Heresy to new players, to show, oh, look, these are all the weird new fun toys that you can start seeing. We had 3 new players or 4 new players take a look. And we started walking my daughter through how the game worked as well. Quick takeaways. I did Sons of Horus with a Black Reaving list. I don't know what Jack, if Jack even did a right. Jack, did you do it right?
I didn't do it right. I just did a straight up.
Okay. It was fun. It was interesting. I didn't dislike the reactions that we had access to. We both were trying to force one another to remember reactions, and they kind of added to the flavor of the game. Our Charybdises, or our Charybdii, or however what the plural for that is, I'm not really sure. I think it's Charybdii. They did show up. I like how the Interceptor is not quite as strong as we thought it was for shooting at them, especially since we had both had a lot of armor on the field, so it wasn't nearly as dangerous as we thought. And I was really happy with how the infantry on both sides was treated by what we had out there. I was kind of disappointed with the jet bike, or not jet bikes, but the javelin speeders. I was also a little disappointed by the glaive, and I was very, very unpleasantly surprised by how bad a slap fight between contemptors goes.
That's real ugly.
Yeah, it was. I was also rather happy with how well Volkites were doing today. A lot of things have been said about dreadnoughts in the current edition being super powerful in close combat, and they are. They're not quite as super powerful against other vehicles. They're super powerful against characters, multi-wound models, and other dreads. I don't really see them walking through as many just regular squads as possible. Multi-wound models, yeah, they'll walk through them because of their brutal power fists. Other dreads, yeah, they'll be a nasty fight right there, and pretty much it's almost guaranteed destruction for somebody, maybe multiple somebodies. But against other vehicles, you don't get the extra wounds from brutal or the extra penetrations, because brutal doesn't cause those; it only causes wounds, not armor penetrations. so it's not quite as bad. So the Contemptor I had that charged into his glaive only did 3 hull points. It didn't do anything effective whatsoever.
So
But
just to ask or to check myself, are the glaive and the fellblade then still true super heavies where you don't roll on the damage table or you ignore weapon destroyed, immobilized, stuff like that?
ignore things like that, yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, at least that's what we were thinking. We may have read that wrong. I'll have to double check that in the actual rule book.
Yeah, because
But-
I know reinforced is the type that the Typhon got, and that just says ignore crew, stun, and crew shit, so you can
No,
always
these are legit super heavies.
Interesting.
Yep. The glaive, the beam, kind of. I'll let Jack talk about the beam, how well it didn't do. Jack,
It was a big, big letdown. I can't remember what was in the previous edition, but I think I maybe did a total of maybe two wounds the whole entire game with this tank that costs 700. And oh wait, I have it right here. 700 points flat. It did nothing. It's beautiful. It's a fantastic mod. If you ever want to paint a big tank for fun and have a good time with it, it's a fantastic tank to do. It has a cool sci-fi gun on top of it. Want it to do anything, it's not your boy.
no, it's really not. The Fellblade, it did some work. I think the best that the glaive itself did was with its last cannons putting wounds on stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sabers
But-
are
So-
good.
Sabers are wonderful. I don't think javelins or the generic javelin that we used to see pretty much everywhere with missile launchers and multi-melta are nearly as good.
Well, yeah, because it has a single cyclone missile launcher.
Yeah,
Yeah, versus bringing 2 real las cannons.
yep. But the Cyclone does get twin linked, so there is
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so it did keep that, but did it
And the
lose...
multi-melt is twin linked.
Did it lose strafing run?
Yep.
That's gone.
Yep. But I think the low points premium you pay to upgrade those Cyclones to true las cannons. Sure, you lose twin linked. Sure, you're no longer BS5, but I think the value las cannon is way up just by being worse.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same opinion. Jack and I both had 2 of them on the field. Not really satisfied with how they turned out working.
Now, that being said, you had mentioned this, and I had floated this as well. If you're looking for something that's harassing fire, that's going after light to medium armor, not like armor saves, but actual like rhinos getting flank shots on Sicarans, you found that the Saber, it has remained points comparable to the Javelin, suddenly looks significantly more appealing.
No, not really.
Did it go way down?
It's not points comparable. Jack, how much were your sabers?
They're 80 points for the first one, and then 70 for additional ones in the unit.
Okay, versus javelins, which are like 105 points or so if you take multi-melta, both
90.
las cannons.
90.
Okay, 90. 90's not too bad.
For the missiles. For the multi-melta and the missiles.
And it's
they're
5
90.
points to go to the las cannons, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so you're still though then up 15 to 25 points over Saber.
Yep.
And you're
I think
tough
that-
7 in a 3-up armor save.
6.
Ooh.
A 3-up armor save with 4 wounds, and you don't get to jink against anything. And if other people are firing and saving their AP2 to put rounds into nasty things like Contemptors or other dreads or bigger vehicles, you're going to eat the AP3 with those guys. And
Yeah.
those guys are not going to stick around the second a missile
Yeah.
barrage hits them.
Not
And
go ahead,
something to
Jack.
be said for vehicle explosions right now because they're
Yeah.
very stupid.
They're a little much. So big vehicles go 6 plus D6, and any unit that gets hit by, not wounded, not suffers an unsaved wound, just hit by the explosion, has to test. And then it's a strength 8 hit. So you're telling me that this rhino that's supposed to protect me from shrapnel can turn into shrapnel more dangerous than the rhino itself can protect me.
I said it before. The suicide bombing rhinos are definitely going to be a thing.
And that's where I said I do want to say that I feel that the Rhino still has for 70 points for driving 10 tactical marines and an optional +1 or +2, whether you want to
Plus
take
2.
apothecary, tech marine, or both, for driving them around, getting them to, and letting them sit there and think about what they've done with their lives, the Rhino still serves that purpose, and I think there's still some real threat saturation by saying it's got a multi-melt. It will,
Yeah, and that multi-melta being twin-linked means you're not going to get that unpleasant one anywhere
Yep.
near as often.
Yep. It will nip wounds off your Contemptor. It will threaten more expensive tanks.
Although
Which
I
is-
will very happily report that the first multi-melta shot I took today, I rolled a 1, and it was twin-linked, and then I rolled another 1. So somehow the curse continued. So I'm proud of that multi-melta for failing me twice.
It's like me with las cannons. Anytime I hit with over 50% of my las cannons, I knew that it was gonna suck it on the armor pen roll. And now that there's Sunder, I'm just like, I should never expect to hit with more than 50% of my las cannon.
Yeah. I also kind of want to make a somewhat casual observation about Volkite.
Did all Volkite get penning, or did just the big Volkites get it?
Honestly, I don't know. We didn't have a chance to put any Volkite into troops. We put Volkite into vehicles and into dreads and into skimmers.
Falconate and the Cardinal are the only ones.
All right, that's not bad.
There we go.
I'm looking at it right now because I was trying to look at what the Volkite Carronade does from the glaive, and I'm not finding the heavy beam rule, unfortunately, so it must be hidden somewhere.
I don't like the layout somewhat of the book for trying to find things, but it's in there.
Beam going straight, and it stops when it hits a building, and anything
So
you're
similar to what it used to be.
right, but the range, and for paying 700 points for it, you get a chance.
Jack, you're breaking up, brother.
It's just not worth it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would agree. For 700 points, that's...
No, I wouldn't take one for 700, despite the fact that it's a gorgeous model, as Jack said.
Fantastic.
But yeah, putting the Volkite on on a dread with having the Gravis Power Fist, that's beefy.
Yeah, you
That's,
can make a mess of a lot of light armor, and you can make a mess of a lot of enemy infantry.
Yep. And another thing that I didn't think to mention, Demolisher cannons. Their strength is 12.
Yep.
So I was lobbing those from the Fellblade and auto penning stuff.
Mm-hmm. Auto pen Rhino.
That was definitely different. I auto penned a Saber and a Rhino and killed a dude with one shot, another guy. Then blew up, I think it was the Saber, that itself then detonated all around and I think did another wound or another hull point to another Rhino or to the other Saber. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
But stuff. Volkite good, Demolisher cannon's good, even though they lost AP too. The Fellblade's accelerator cannon also good. It hurt a Rhino, killed 4 or 5 guys from Jack's Volkite squad, who then proceeded to flee and run off the table.
Ooh, that's right.
They also had a Vexilla and an Armistice.
Oh, and they still made it off the table even with the Vexilla?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a little surprised the Carronade didn't do more, because with an 8-3 deflagrate, I mean you're pulling normal Marines off the table and wounding everyone you pulled off. I know 700 points, it might still not. It would be really hard to make up.
Well, and I think the implication is that it just kind of bounces off the same way I said the Typhon's kind of junky. It's because it bounces off a Rhino.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So go ahead.
Volkite good. Contemptors phenomenally good. Definitely put Volkite on Contemptors because you get lots and lots of shots.
Very nice.
Did the big cannon on the glaive have like haywire or something in the previous edition?
No.
Don't think it did.
No.
If you give me-
yes, it did
look
have
it up.
haywire. It did have
Did it?
haywire in the previous edition, which is why people were upset because I think it was 8-2, but you never got to resolve the AP2 against a vehicle. You just got to haywire.
But that's how our game went, and I'm gonna mute for a second.
Sounds good. So I want to hinge off his point where he's indicated the speeder, where if you don't have other threatening thing 3-up save, that speeder is going to catch all the AP3 in the enemy army or anything that resembles AP3 in the enemy army, I think that's where White Scars have the capacity to kind of take off, is because you can take a number of jet bikes as line options. You can take not only the base land speeder, but I think their land speeder, now that it has a carries on his mount, and two, I think, is it Reaper autocannons on the side mounts? I'd have to double check. But everything on that platform now has rending, where it didn't before. And you now get even more shots out of the assault cannon, because I, for whatever reason, don't think it was a carries in the previous edition. I wanted to say that was an Elastus, but I think there's a pretty staggering amount of firepower in terms of trying to enemy light to armor, and I think they do so at a pretty efficient cost. I can check that.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's just pull up my rules here. Oh, my friendly local here, a week after Go Live, they finally got the other half of their on order in, so I finally got my loyalist.
Ooh.
Very exciting. They are 105 points base, and so you can buy Hunter Killers on them. Yeah, they're a little more expensive than a standard Javelin, but I think volume of fire that you get, depending on what you have the rest of your arm doing, where now you can take multi-meltas on bikes and hide those more effect behind heavies or behind Volkites. I think that take las cannons, your speeders might be a little bit lower. Regardless, we did also we'll circle back here. Jamie, it's good to see you here with us. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you all?
We're excellent. It's good to have you with us. Do you have any hobby progress to report on before we head into our challenge segment?
Yes. I finished up the lion.
He's looking good.
Yeah, I have to varnish seal it and maybe do a little touch up on the dust weathering that I do on all my Dark Angels because of the basing they're on. But other than that, he's finished. And I think I was up to like 2:30 last night. That was my hobby progress. But I also went to and had an old gaming buddy drop in town that I hadn't seen in since prior to COVID. So that was cool. Went and got to hang out at the GW store a little bit on Friday night. And then on Saturday, I didn't get to play, but I witnessed 3 games, Horus Heresy game. World Eaters versus Dark Angel, Dark Angels versus Death Guard, and Imperial Fist versus Sons of Horus. Both the Dark Angel games, the Dark Angels table, the World Eaters, and the Death Guard by turn, just outright slaughters. Not a model left on the other side with probably about half the armed Dark Angel side left. Dark Angels appear, from what I saw, they're not a beginner army, let's put it that way. Very complex, and there's a lot of intricacies, and there's a lot of extra rules that you wouldn't normally have with, say, most of the armies other than maybe like the Thousand Suns with their psychic stuff.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of freedom of choice. It's like Alpha Legion used to be.
It's like every squad basically can have their own special. You have like the general army rules and then the warlord rules, so it just keeps stacking, and it's a lot of. They're very complex that way to master. From what I saw, because most of the armies were stuff that was just from the box. So we're talking with points, a little over I guess about 2,000 points, I guess is the main box you can use. There was also a couple Kratos battle tanks in action. The Kratos battle tanks, the battle cannon, the normal cannon style, did not do a whole lot. Whereas there was another one that was equipped with the Volkite, the Chum Chum, went Chum Chum. Like, it was devastating. Whereas the battle cannon really wasn't doing a whole lot. The Contemptors were just ridiculous, like across the board. Like every army that had a Contemptor on the table, it was just like not funny how devastating between range combat and getting into close combat. It was like absolute total
punching left, right, and center with gun and fist.
Yeah. Also on Saturday, my son decided to go to the store with me, and he painted his first miniature, which is, it was a Primaris Marine. It's one of those push fit Primaris Marines, but he painted it Alpha Legion. And then he got home and started flipping through all my books and decided that he wants to go Death Guard.
In 30K or 40K?
30K.
Good boy.
So I was like, well, I kind of described each army and kind of gave him like an overview because he really doesn't know how to play very well or at all yet. And he's like, yeah, he's like between Alpha Legion, Sons of Horus, and Death Guard. So yeah, I'm probably going to end up having to get another starter buff.
Tell him that we welcome him to the true side, the side of the War Master, and we welcome his membership.
And it's
So
fantastic news.
So yeah, my wife was not very happy. So
that's
like
Nobody cares about her.
That's the funny story, right? My son's 16 and he's got the he's got an Alpha Legion list that's half built and has a couple test models painted. And it's gonna probably have to be redone because I had some attack bikes that he had 3D printed the Heresy style sidecars for, which don't exist in the rules, or at least yet, whether they come back or not. And a few other things, but we're getting the boxes and he's like, one of those boxes for me, right? I'm like, no.
yeah, I've
This is
kind of
my army. If you want an army, you need to be buying your own army. You get the rule book out of it and the whippy sticks.
So Asher keeps picking really expensive hobbies. He got a lot. He got picked paint. He had been playing paintball. He started playing paintball with me, and I don't know if you all know, but like not cheap. But like his grandparents spoiled him for Christmas and got him like everything he basically needed to play, other than paint.
The problem with paintball is, admittedly, when I played, I was in the accuracy by quantity category, but I'd go through 80 to $100 worth of paint a weekend when I played. So
yeah,
that's
paint.
Here.
I mean, we where we're at, we have a lot of feeling the paint's not super expensive, but it's right now. Like, I mean, I live in Middle Alabama, and it's during most of the daylight hours, it's almost unbearable to be outside. So like, you can't play at all during the summertime. Really, I mean, it's just too hot. I mean, like I took him out and played last week, and by 1 o'clock, everybody that was playing was literally, and I was playing actually with some pro players that I'd known for a long time. We were all dead. Like, we were just gassed from the heat. And so, like, there's nobody's just playing that much right now. So I guess we have to go inside. But I've made a deal with him that if he can keep his first semester grades up to at least 3 A's and 3 out of 5 A's, he starts school back up, I will get starter box.
That's awesome.
That's super cool.
You are the kind of dad that every kid growing up deserves to have.
I wish. The other children don't say that, nor does my wife. I've been trying to do a lot more with, like, just be more active with him and stuff. And he's been interested in painting. I know he's always been interested in painting. And so, like, he actually asked me if I could take him to the store. I'm like, sure. What do you want to do? And he's like, well, we know the guy that runs the store very well. And he, the GW store guys, they teach people how to paint that just walk in. I'm like, well, you won't listen to me. Will you listen to Jesse? And he's like, sure. And he walked him through the whole process and gave him some tips and stuff like that and shortcuts. And I mean, he did pretty well. I was actually pretty impressed with this first try.
I wish my kid has all kinds of, because besides that Alpha Legion army, he has just a ton of orc stuff. They had that big battle box that was like the speed box that had like all kinds of vehicles in it. I painted up almost the entire Speed Freaks box and all the buggies when that released and a bunch of bikes for him. But he's just got, I mean, in probably, if we were looking at 7th ed points, because I don't know 8th or 9th, but he's probably got 4,500 to 5,000 points worth of orcs easily, if not more, that he needs to build up and paint. And I really want him to get it done because at some point I'll pull out one of the rule sets and do an Eleanor campaign against them with all the orcs. So, but he likes
very cool.
He likes playing way more than he likes building and painting. So, someday he'll get there, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I've just had a super. It doesn't seem like I've gotten a lot done, but I've been super busy.
My mark is pretty busy, I would say.
Well, I mean, y'all have heard the trials and tribulations that I've had trying to get to the point where I could paint them, and it took me about a week to do the base, just like hobbying at night for a little while, and then like Friday night and Saturday, I just kind of sat down and said, I'm doing it, and I just hammered through it. And then like last night, my wife had to go to work today really early, And so like she woke up at like midnight last night. She's like, "You coming to bed?" I'm like, "I'm coming to bed when I get this done." So I stayed up and finished it, and I'm pretty happy with the results.
That is the path of not sleeping well, sir. I have been on that path lately. We need to get off that path. It's not good for us.
Yeah,
It's summertime.
bad problem with that.
So I'm
yeah, I
really
think-
looking forward to next weekend because I have Friday and Tuesday off, and my kid will be gone, and my wife will be working both days. So I should pretty much have 2 complete days for hobbying, and that's my intent for those 2 days. So I'm excited.
So I think at this point, Jacob, we're ready for the list fun.
It's time. So, dear listeners, if you have somehow made it this far without an excellent program called Top Gear, leave now and go watch that and then come back. But don't leave, because we are trying to do something as a loving homage to that series. We have all decided to start Legions, quote-unquote, kind of theorying this, knowing that we are wanting to start with a box and or Legion book and get an army off the. So we gave ourselves a budget of $1,000, and players will score 1 point for every dollar under 1,000 that they come in. And then at the end, we will kind of weight things based on who's gotten the most points under, or what list has gotten the most points under. We will, amongst ourselves, kind of weigh in style points, the theme, capability of that list. And then we'll see who wins, for no other reason than compete with one another. So, sit back, strap in, and enjoy the ride.
You might want to lay out the ground rules for this. It's not this is you have the box and the rules and $1,000.
It is, you get 1,000 total dollars.
And you are starting off having to get the box and your Legion's rules.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not allowed to use recast. You're not allowed to do 3D printing. And you have to hit a 3,000 point list.
Yep.
And build that from third-party stuff, not
yes.
eBay.
Yes, that's where I was going here. You are allowed third-party, like 3D prints, but it's got to be, for lack of a better term, legitimate product. This is
something you actually have to buy.
Yes, this is something you buy from a vendor, not on the second-hand market. I think we have a couple of us who may have bought a second box and hucked a couple contents out of it, and we'll see how things go from there. But I think in general we limited ourselves to you must be able to buy this item from a retailer at this listed price. No, oh hey, my friendly local does 10% off. Nope, none of that. Now, we didn't factor in sales tax, but
That changes everywhere.
yeah, we can't do different builds for every state in the.
And these also are obviously American prices. We're not going off euros. We're not going off pounds. Or we're not going off. Unfortunately, for any Australian listeners, we're not going off Australian dollars. For Australian listeners, we're sorry.
Don't tell them that you're sorry. They'll think they're people.
I was gonna say that the box set probably cost them the $1,000 right up front, right?
I can't even imagine.
Wait, what's this Australia place you're speaking of? I didn't think that was on the map. I thought it was.
So, who wants to get us started with one of their lists?
Oh, I'll go ahead and start with my my World Eater list.
Hit us with what you got.
Right. So the $1,000, obviously you're getting the Heresy box for $299 and the Liber Hereticus for $70. So there you've got $369 spent. Now the Praetor with the axe, perfectly functional, but your guys are all obviously going to need to look stylistically like World Eaters. So you're gonna have to buy the World Eater transfer sheet. That's another $35. Personally, I hate beaky heads a lot. So I went ahead and I went with the World Eater Legion Mark II set heads, the upgrades. 4 of those sets. That's another $96 because I'm going to replace every beaky head with a bunny ear head. And I don't want any of those guys to be tactical Marines. I want to run them all as despoiler squads. So I went over to Pop Goes the Monkey to grab 40 chain axes, $15 a set, bolt pistols. They have those that come in a set of 20 for $16 a set. So those upgrades there put me at $591. Then I went to Forge World for a Leviathan Dread with a Melta Lance and the Snippy Claw, $140. a Dread Pod, $116, Angron, $114, and that put me at $962.44, and it's right at $3K.
What was that total again?
900,
962.44. We're gonna round down and just call it 962.
and I feel that it's not only a functional list, it's a flavorful list because it looks the part, it acts the part, and it should be kind of fun to play.
So are you just running the Terminators as Legion Terminators, shoving those Spartan and driving those forward with Angron and your HQ choices?
I was literally leaving them as they were and not fiddling with them at all. I was running the tactical guys as 2 20-man blobs.
Did you buy, like, so I'm assuming because you didn't invest in any, you went like Power Fists, Chain Fists on the Cataphracti?
Yep.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's a big angry list with some big angry dudes.
Now, there's not a lot of shooting to it, and which is always a World Leader trait. You don't have a lot of shooting, you have a lot of close combat. But I think it works.
Yeah,
it's kind of mono flavor, but so are the World Leaders.
You're definitely hoping that Leviathan shows up on turn 2, and that the Leviathan and the Spartan draw enough fire for everybody to make it in.
Yeah. And I went with the, because I like, as I said, the Volkite. There's your contender. Volkite and Fist.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense. So, if, and this is a big hypothetical, theoretical, if you had the dollars from not swapping heads on everyone, where would be your go-to? I applaud you for doing the head swap, and I think a lot of people will do that head swap because they're extremely iconic helmets.
So that would give me a $96 more. Adding that to the ballpark 38, I think I had left.
Yeah.
I don't quite know what I would get at this point. I think likely I'd run another Contemptor.
What did you run as your HQ choices?
I had Angron for the leader, obviously, and I only used one of the Praetors, but the guy with the axe became a Paragon, and then Vanilla as other than that.
So did you run him as a Paragon Praetor or a Champion?
Paragon Praetor.
Right on. Pretty cool.
I was actually really satisfied with that, because it's actually something similar to somewhat of the World Leader lists I would run, personally. Doesn't have enough rhinos for me, and that might be something you could do, is take the extra money left over from not getting the beaky head, or the beaky head swapped out, to grab some rhinos and split those 2 20-man blocks up into, say, a 10-man block, or 2 10-man blocks in rhinos, and a 20-man block with the Praetor, to give you some movement.
Without the head swap, you'd get at least it's almost straight up just 2 rhinos. So.
Yeah, there you go.
Right on. Did somebody have their list they wanted to float out?
I can go.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I have 2 lists, so
I have 2 as well. Go ahead.
Okay, so my first list is for the Dark Angels, and I guess I'll go through what I bought first. So started out with the Lion. That was $152. Then the box set gave me the 40 Marines. So I built 3 tactical squads and bought the Lion, and I'm also buying 5 Mark 1C Rhinos. So that was like 200, and I had it written down. So it was like 235-ish or something like that.
5 Rhinos. Yeah, they're about $50 a pop.
They're 47. The Mark 1Cs are 47.
Yeah, so you are going to be 235 for 5.
So 5 Rhinos, Lion. Got it written. I bought I'm gonna buy instead of buying molded pads, I bought a transfer for 32. Then I bought I bought a veteran upgrade from GW, like the old Dark Angel veteran upgrade where they're in robes. And the reason I did that is because it comes with a bunch of it's $35, which is cheap, okay, for like anything from GW, but it just comes with all kinds of swords and axes and fluffy stuff to add in. Plus, it gives you robe heads and a couple robe bodies if you wanted to swap out HQ or sergeants for them. Then, because I'm gonna do a heavy weapons squad, I bought Chrome-Lec missile launchers because they're about half the price a squad, like for the missile launchers compared to the Forge World ones. So that was 41. It's like $41.72. And then I bought a Chromlech Rhino radar upgrade. So I was gonna do a Damocles Command Rhino, and like the Forge World one's like $125. So one of the 5 rhinos I bought was gonna add the Chromlech part to it, which was only like $17.10 or something like that. There was one other.
I like that Cromlech blade.
Yeah, you've painted one up just stellar.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Well, that's my huge conversion Damocles. So it's got the radar dish on the back. It's got the Cromlech extra armor on the sides, and then it has the Forge World door updates that fit for Ultramarines that fit the and front plank that fit the square Mars pattern doors, because that's what the extra armor upgrade for Cromlech does. And yeah, I'm really happy with that. It's got the guy with the heavy bolter on top too. That will stay in my list too when I get to Ultramarines, because you put it there and it's nice.
I also bought some Chromlech Vibro swords because the Calibite Warblades, I needed extra swords that, like, in addition to the ones that would have come with the Dark Angel Veteran upgrade sprue. And then I splurged on a Forge World, and it is a true splurge, Saber Strike Tank, a single one with a neutron blaster, and the tank is $91.50, and the cannon is $23. So my grand total when I added everything up was $973.04.
I'll put you down at 901. That's our cheapest yet. So what's the list actually look like when you put it on tabletop? What's your FOC?
Okay, so Lion HQ, obviously. Then I had 3 troop squads that were Stormwing right, their right of war. The overall right of war for the army is Stormwing.
Oh man, yeah, Stormwing's a great right for
playing
out of the box.
Sorry.
Hang on. What was your total price spent on this again?
$973.04.
Oh, $973. Okay,
Yeah.
I heard 901. Okay, most expensive. I apologize.
Question.
Go ahead.
Because, and the only reason I'm questioning, why did you go with the Neutron for the Saber rather than the other guns?
If I would have gone with another gun, I probably would have gone with the autocan just to make it, to be honest with you, points wise. But like these lists that I made, like with the money, it were like way over points wise. Like, so like you could strip out whatever warrior gear you want, and you're going to be you're still going to be over 3,000 points.
You actually would have more variety and more actual options for playing.
Right.
Cool. I dig
That's
that.
my problem with the Sabers. I can't figure out what to arm it with for my list. I've got.
No, I have like my personal list for my Iron Wing that I run. I actually have 2 neutron laser Sarkarians, so I'm kind of partial to them. And I also have on all my Sabers that I'm going to build are basically they're all going to be auto because I was trying to make them as cheap as possible and run up. But anyways, so this list it was Iron Wing, not Stormwing, because in the tac squads they're 10-man blobs, okay, with Vox and Vex, Vexella and Vox caster. They're gonna have the Stormwing squad right, okay, so they get +1 to hit or when they're shooting. And then the sergeants all going to have Calibite, Warblades, Melta Bombs, and Artificer arm. The Rhinos are Rhino, Dozer Blade, and Multi-Melta. Multi-Melta Splurge. I know it's the same price as a Rhino now, which is kind of crazy, like points-wise. But I was trying to get that, make sure I had that tank killing. So because they're going to run, they're typically going to run up to shoot stuff. The heavy squad, it's going to be in a Mark 1C as well. It has missile launchers because the Dark Angels, they get stasis missiles in addition to all the other types for free. So 10-man squad, it's going to have the Iron Wing type for, taking out vehicles. You get the bonuses for armor attacks, and they're in a Rhino as well. Then Legion Centurion and Chaplain. Go have the Chaplain console type, and you'll see what's going to happen next. Then add him with a command squad and put them in the Damocles Command Rhino with the Vox Super Vox Relay caster or whatever. So like all my squads have Voxes in them, so that they will get the Chaplain leadership, which is was it a leadership 10?
Yeah, I believe it's lead 10. So you're trying to play high leadership play fast, stay
Yep.
mobile, and
Yep.
then once you get that Rhino into position, dump a couple guys out the back and kind of post them up in a building.
Just shoot. Yep. And then elite, I have a contemptor with the las cannon, and then just regular close combat weapon with the flamer and helical targeting ray, and Iron Wing on that for the vehicle attack bonuses. Elite, go to Cataphractii Terminators, full 10-man squad, straight out of the box. Added the Forge World. That was one thing I forgot. I added the Forge. It was in my price, but I forgot to say it. I added the Forge World upgrade for weapons for the Cataphracties, so to get that Reaper autocannon and get some variety of weapons, like if I needed a plasma blaster or wanted to swap out some of the weapons. So the Cataphractii are basically going to be like a shield retinue for the Lion, and stuff them all in the Spartan from the box with a flare shield, and add a hull las cannon, just as I guess you go full Death Star with that. And then the last thing was the Saber Strike tank as a fast attack, kind of like flank or harassing with the neutron blaster, 2 missiles. Because that was the thing I couldn't believe. Like the Sabers, they used to be able to come stock with being able to take 4 missiles, and now they're dropped them down to 2. So even though it has 4 missiles basically sculpted on the model.
Super weird.
Yep.
I like that. I really do like that selection of stuff.
So it's
Now-
like everything's mobile. It's Iron Wing, so they get the bonuses for shooting and rolling around. And the only thing that's not mobile really is the Cataphractii, but I mean he can walk, or run. And then you've got the Death Star, I guess, with the Praetor. I mean, not the Praetor, with the with the Lion. And then you have the Saber Strike tank to harass stuff, which
cool.
it can still, with that neutron cannon, can still do like a lot of damage.
That's definitely a list of stuff that will definitely be flavorful, be fun.
And like with all the add-ins and stuff, the list was 36, 28 points, so like easily can come down. And I still had a Praetor left in the box left over too. So.
Oh wow! So you built a lot of options. You built like almost 700 points for people.
Yep, and so like you can change stuff around, and like you can't go. What I did with. I also did a second list with the Space Wolf. Both my lists, I tried to fluffy with kind of like a good core army to build off of. Like if you wanted just to go balls out and go, like 5,000, something like that, or so.
Very
but like
impressive. So somebody could even, like, for example, cut the Lion out, use that second HQ model that you hadn't touched, turn it into a Praetor just to get the Rite of War, and like if they wanted to, they could start scything away a lot of that budget if they had to.
Yep, and that would also drop $155 right off the top, right? You drop the. But I was trying to be like fluffy because, like, why not? But
oh yeah, who doesn't want their Primarch included?
I mean, like I know from the at the GW store, all the people that there was like 30 people that bought boxes, and there's one guy that bought every Primarch and a box for every Primarch. Insane, but like all the other normal people, generally when they bought a box, most of them actually bought the Primarch, the box.
Okay.
Now,
I think all of us did at least 2 lists. So,
yep.
Who's next?
I can jump in next. So
yeah, let's go for it, Dan. What'd you bring?
I'm gonna jump in with Sons of Horus, and I'm gonna say I did not throw the Horus model in here. So this is really more of a budget list. So take that into consideration. So my list, I'm gonna do the Long March Rite of War. I'm gonna start with. So we're gonna buy the old school from the Battle of Calth characters. So we're gonna buy the Terminator, Praetor, and the Chaplain model. So that will be your HQ Praetor. And then I'm going to buy a couple sets of the Jesterian weapon upgrade sprues. From Forge World, which gives you the ability to make about a dozen Justarian Terminators. So depending on how you want to run that, you can run that as one retinue actually, or retinue and another unit. The way Long March works, everything else will be on the table. You pick a outflanking spot, and when they come in from reserves, they walk onto the table from that outflanking spot. So you'll either have a giant bunch of Justarian Terminators or 2 bunch of Justarian Terminators that can walk onto the table there. So then I have a Contemptor out of the box, tooled out with everything. Probably the las cannon, because looking at vehicles and other dreadnoughts. I've got a chaplain who will run in a 20-man tactical squad in the Spartan from the box with an apothecary. And Spartan will also let you run a Legion champion in there. So you've got a whole big, huge bunch of people. That's the obviously the chaplain that came with the Praetor, and then one of the characters from the box set, the Contemptors from the box set. I've got 2 Predators. I put them down as standard cannon with las cannon sponson, so they got a little bit of multi-duty there. And then I've got 2 walking tactical squads, and I've got another apothecary there who can go along with one of those walking tactical squads. And the long march basically gives you extra movement there. So you've got the one big group in the Spartan and a few tanks on the board, and then you got those tactical squads that you can send out and either take and hold or work towards objectives on the table. So you got 3 scoring units. You're a little light in scoring maybe, but I think that it works for a budget list. So we've got obviously the 370 for the box and the rule book. We've got the Cataphractate Praetor and Chaplain was 55. That I think that might be too much. That might have been in Canadian dollars. I'm not sure. But we'll leave it there. It was 53 for the Justarian weapon upgrades. It was 130 for 2 Predators. It was 46 from Forge World for 2 Apothecaries. And I couldn't find it, but I put down 50 for the old Cataphractii box. So you can fill in the rest. There was a couple of Cataphractii you're short. So I'm assuming that'll be re-released at some point in time. I mean, they're the ones that come in the box. I assume they're going to keep selling them. They just are reboxing them somehow. We haven't seen it yet. But I put that down that you could find that at 50. And then the nice thing, because Sons of Horus come in the box, you got transfers in the box. So you don't need to spend that money for transfers there. So that comes in what I've got there. Again, it may not be the best list. I think it's pretty flavorful for Sons of Horus, though. And it comes in at $704.
$704.
And that's 3K?
That's 3,000 points. Now, 3,000 points are optioning a lot of things out, potentially. So, and you do have an extra character model in there, but you're maxed out in 3 HQs the way I wrote the list, with a champion, a chaplain, and a Praetor. And you've actually got an extra character and probably three extra Cataphractii models out of it. So you're pretty efficient in use of your models when it comes right down to it. But it'll be 3K.
Awesome. Super impressive to see a $700 list.
And the nice thing is, right, at 7 and we had 1,000, if you really get into it and you're like Duncan that doesn't like bees, for example, and I admit I like them. The new Sons of Horus head upgrades are really nice, right? So you can add on to there in that budget, and you can add in some of the upgrades, the shoulders and the heads, and you've got the money if you want to buy a Horus model and throw it in there and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's a list that gets you on the table, show up at an event. You're not getting blown off the table turn 1 every time. It'll be kind of fun to play, get used to it, and then figure out where you want to go from there.
I actually like that. As a Sons of Horus player, I think that's actually a pretty solid list. Good start.
That's a good way to get people's foot in the door.
That's a great way to get a foot in the door for that layout, for that level of a list. That's a fairly decent way to do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Jack or John, if you had one of your lists.
Sure, I'll go. I've only got one.
Wonderful.
So I started with the base box. I really, I have a buddy game.
Did you do?
Ultramarines.
Of course.
I don't know where people think that there's other parts to do this. I don't know where these other despoilers or rampagers or all these other weird words I've been saying all night. So I took the basic box. I threw in a couple Centurions. One's an Armistos with a heavy bolter. One's a Master of Signals. You can save a good bit of money by making those. The Master of Signals can be made with the Spartan crew guy. He's got that big tablet. And since the Master of Signals really can't take a bunch of extra weapons, I just took him off of that. I equipped the Cataphracti with a full 10-man unit, mix of 2 claws, 4 Magna combis, probably Meltas or plasma guns, depending. 4 fists, 2 chain fists, and 2 hammers. Upgraded the Spartan with extra last cannons. Put last cannons on the Contemptor. And then I took 5 apothecaries using Bits of War Legionary Apothecary conversion set. So for it's load right now. $695 US, you get a right arm and a backpack that work on 30K scale models. So you can build 5 apothecaries for $35, including shipping. And those guys will go attached to 3 tactical squads and rhinos. And then the other 2 will attach to the heavy support squads, one of which I gave 10 missile launchers, one of which I gave 10 heavy bolters. So that way you just buy 1 box of heavy weapons and combine it. And then the big money, where the rest of the money went for this one, went to 3 sabers. I put the neutron lasers on them, but you could put the missile or the autocannons on them. The neutron lasers makes it come to exactly 3,000 points, but if you put the autocannons on them, you'd have an extra 60 points to play with, and you could futz with weapons around every other place. And then for me, that comes to $984, rounded up to 1,000 if you do the extra set of decals.
Yeah. Oh wow, is the Ultramarine sheet only 25?
No, it's 35, but I mean,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's about 1,000.
I like the use of the crime-like bits for the apothecary.
Very much.
Especially considering you're pulling Marine.
That's what I wanted to do. I've got the full 40 from the box, and then there's an extra 20 guys in there, an extra squad of an extra box of Mark 6. You end up with like 4 extra guys if you're not using both of the characters out of the main box, because one of them I turned into a Praetor with a Paragon blade, and the other one I kept. I didn't use at all. Probably the larger axe guy. I just don't like him that much. But yeah, for the most part, you've got a little bit of extra playing room in here for model wise with those 4 guys, and then depending on what you want to take weapons wise, I put chain bayonets on all the Rhino squads and Vexillas and Melta bombs on the sergeants, and then put power weapons on the apothecaries that go in the tactical squads. That way you've got some staying power if you get charged. So
I thought about the crime-like bits for the Sons of Horus list, but what I realized I didn't have the extra dudes. So I figured you could buy the apothecaries with the 2 dudes by the time you're coming up with a way to get 2 dudes. Since you can only buy them in units of 20, you're better off just buying the 2 apothecaries at that point.
Yeah, that's what I was having trouble with, is I can't figure out a way to get the 11th heavy bolter for the Armistos without having to trade or do something. But I figure with a lot of people buying heavy weapons teams, you'll probably someone will have 1 extra, or a 40K player will have 1 laying around that you might want to look different and newer because it's the character anyway.
Yeah, super fair point. Very exciting list, and you said that was exactly 3,000 if you kept the neutron lasers.
Yeah.
Jack, what'd you bring to bear?
Well, I actually wasn't voted on the island for this because I've been working all week.
How dare you?
But just to be fun, I threw something together because at one point I said I'd do the Death Guard Legion, but I don't think it was seen. So I just kind of threw together something right here, right now. So I'm trying to make this something that is accessible, somebody fairly new to the hobby, who maybe doesn't want to work with like a lot of resin yet, but still remain fluffy and without going into a lot of Forge World, and also keeping the spirit of, at least in my head, Death Guard. So not really, I don't have any points. I just kind of have a dollar amount. I know just based upon my experience, this is going to be roughly 3,000 points. So I have the box set, I have the book, I have the decals from Clowmic, however you want to pronounce that word that I cannot say right now.
Cromlech.
There we go. That it right there. In my head, Death Guard is not beaky helmets. I think beaky helmets would be too nice for the Death Guard. So I have this helmets from there. I picked the Destroyer helmets because I thought they looked relatively Death Guardy. But again, your mileage may vary on that as far as what people think. From them, I would order a total of 18 las cannons, and turn some of those 40 Marines that I had out of box set into heavy weapon squads, with their special rules with you get to move and shoot at the same time with reactionary fire. I think last cannon heavy squads are the way to go. With that, also I have this a pack of scythes because nothing says Death Guard more than scythes. In my head, and then have two Vindicators just from Forge World. This standard ready plastic Vindicators. I know eventually we will be to the new Demios pattern Vindicators because they'd be silly not to have them. But this regular, bog standard Mars pattern Vindicator, an eBay Contemptor that you can get for $50, and then eBay more bodies to fill out everything. In my head, what I would run this as is probably 2 tax squads, sergeants with scythes, artificial armor, that type of thing. 2 8-man heavy weapon squad, the Terminator squad, and the Spartan. The 2 Vindicators, 2 Dreadnoughts, and just run that up the field slowly but surely, killing people. It comes out right now without any fancy bells and whistles to about $740, and that would go quick math is roughly probably like 3,000 points, 3,100.
Super cool. Yeah, I think seeing that relentless trait definitely heavy weapon teams appealing for Death Guard.
Yeah.
It was a cool choice. Go ahead.
That's you, Jake. You're up, brother.
That's me. Wonderful. I will go ahead and look at my Thousand Sons list. I tried to do something relatively thematic here, and I think I've already completed the adjustments that we alluded to earlier in the episode. So right now this is kind of penciling in, looking like about 2950, and we are playing the brand new Thousand Sons Castellax right away. In my head, with this guy and who brought with him, this is supposed to be kind of the archaeologist's force, if that makes you've come to a world, you've probably been under some harrying fire from Eldar forces, and you've got your trucks that you're able to haul artifacts around in, as well as a couple like lifters there to support you in your excavation. So at 2950, I brought Araman as my HQ choice. He's available in the blister now, and he's $35. Not a bad price. I'm then going to take the 2 HQ models that we get in the box. One of those is going to be a champion, and I'm going to buy him a Psychic Discipline. I'm then going to take whichever of the other 2 models you prefer, so depending on how you would do all this, I would probably say to use the Axe guy, the champion, because the second Centurion that I'm bringing a Herald with, I may not be a war, yeah, I bet we could make it work. Run a Herald where I've bought him a power weapon and a Psychic Discipline. So that would probably, to me, be converting the one who's got the power sword. So if you can find a way to jump that power sword over to his left hand, big stretch, to put a banner in that's a great way to get a Herald. And that's important because those 3 are going to go with a big homebrew conversion Sekhmet Terminator squad in the Spartan. I had originally penciled this together thinking that the Sekhmet squad was an upgrade kit. It may have been at one point, but it's not now. They sell those standalone with the Terminators. So I did pencil in buying some upgrade bits from Pop Goes the Monkey. They have a beautiful assortment of various Kopesh and Heka staffs, Lots of options there to and make them look like Sekhmet. I did have 2 models bring chain fists. I would probably, knowing what I know now, consider also putting 2 Thunderhammers a squad, but it's not necessary. And then I did have the Sergeant buy a Psychic. Finishing out my elite squad, or elite slots, I took the Contemptor from the box, equipped it with the Gravis Las Cannon and the palm-mounted Melta weapon. I then went to World and bought the Osirian Dreadnought. The Osirian Dreadnought, I think, is just gorgeous, and it works very well here because then we can take some of the leftover bits from the Contemptor that was in the box. So we can take a palm-mounted plasma and the Gravis Melta Cannon, can put those on the Osirian to finish that out. As well as then taking a minor Psychic Arcana, which is your Legion Tactic psychic abilities, and a Psychic Discipline. We put those on the Osirian. Into the troops, I picked up 2 tactical squads, 2 10-man tactical squads, and Rhinos. I did buy them the Asphyx rounds for their bolters. That reduces their range, but it does grant them shred. I went ahead and took those Rhinos fully dressed. So I put multi-meltas and dozer. I then, for the kind of last of the troops, took a 20-man tactical squad, and I bought them the Asphyx bolters as well, but you could just as easily spend those same points on bayonets instead of the shredder bolters, especially knowing that they're on foot. And then that squad is supposed to kind of escort and walk around with, because they're scoring in this Rite of War, a pair of Castellax Achaea. You can take those with whatever gun you please. I would encourage people to take the Asphyx bolt cannon that comes on them. It's a 4-shot Strength 6 AP4 with Shred, so you can really help your tactical squad, that big squad, by trying to knock out enemy Rhino or charge. And then I finished this list out with a Deradeo Dreadnought with the Arachnus Las Cannon and the Aeolus missile launch. So all told, I ended up spending 300 on the big box, 74 Liber Hereticus, dropped $95 on an Osirian. I spent $20 at Pop Goes the Money to upgrade the Sekhmet squad, or the standard Terminators, into Sekhmet. Spent $35 on transfers, $94 in a pair of Rhinos, $104 on a Deradeo, $34 on Armament, and $160 on Castellax. And if my math holds, that should need to like $910.
Can you email that list to me or message it to me?
Yeah, I can ship you that.
Because I'm going to show that to Mariah and see what she thinks. Because
Yeah.
that seems flavorful, not over the top, and fun. And while having a decent variety. So I think that might be something she would possibly be interested in.
Yeah, there's a lot of player agency, because I don't think it requires any commitment to any specific psychic disciplines. And as she plays and grows with the list, if she finds that all those psychic disciplines are a little oppressive for some people to play against, she can start pulling back and either trim those points or from selecting some of the stronger psychic disciplines. I think the only thing that I'm missing, and I just don't have a book in front of me right now, don't have my trader book in front of me right now, I do think you do have to take at least 1 Tech Marine Covenant for the list, as long as it doesn't require a Master of the Forge console choice. That would obviously be another $40 to get at least 1 Tech Marine, but that would then walk with the big 20-man squad to keep putting those Castellax back together. It definitely has a surprising amount of long-term firepower in the las cannon. The 2 multi-meltas on the Rhino, you've got the Castellax that can kind of harry lower armor value targets, and then all 3 of the Dreadnoughts have some real anti-tank potency. Should be a pretty fun list, I think. So I'll make sure I get that sent to you. Go ahead.
Requires a Tech Marine and Praevian.
Oh, a Tech Marine and a Praevian. That is unfortunate. So, I mean, you could, instead of taking the Champion, you could make that model a Praevian, but that does require investing in some additional... The way that I had this originally sketched in was no Castellax, and there was a second Deredeo, and then all 4 of the tactical squads were in multi-melta rhinos. So definitely shows that I kind of flew by the seat of my pants to adjust that. I wouldn't, in general, encourage people to put 4 current until you and your playgroup find out that that's an okay or acceptable.
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So that was where I kind of scrambled, gutted the one Deredeo and turned it into 2 Castellax. But it sounds like there might need pieces behind that. You could always scrap both Deredeos, take a Kratos. You could scrap both Deredeos and instead bring Magnus. And that would also work there. Magnus is 500, so he is super chunky. I think he's about $150, and the 2 Castellax and the 1 Deredeo collectively, I think, are probably coming up close to about $250. So you would actually save $100 if you cut the Castellax, because we can't meet a requirement of the Rite of War, as well as then cutting the Deredeo. So that would put us to $812 to take Magnus and trim the choices. Now again, I would probably encourage taking 2 rhinos if that was the case, our savings. But that's hardly. And there you go. There's some with the 1,000s.
Even with the adjusted list, I think I really like that.
Oh, kicking out the Castellax and both the Deredeos and taking Magnus.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, if you took Magnus, because you do have to vacate a choice out of the Spartan, I would again put the champion back on the on the chopping block. He's kind of the least valuable member of that team, because the Herald is there handing out scoring as well as fear and fearless to that big segment, which is a lot to try to dislodge.
Can't really disagree there. Well, that's everybody having done their first list. Do we want to do our second list tonight, or do we want to save our second list for the next time?
I know I definitely want to touch on my Alpha Legion list before we go, because I've then got 3 lists, I think, for our next show.
Yeah, I've got another 2 for the next show.
I've only got 1 for the next show, so I feel better.
I have none.
Ditto.
Well, then, for everyone who has 3 lists left or 2 lists left, why don't you throw one of them to Jack and one to John, and we can see how John enjoys building something that's not Ultramarines.
I've certainly gone blind. I can't see.
Well, if anybody wants any of the 3 that I have remaining, you're more than welcome.
What do you have remaining?
Night Lords, Word Bearers, and Space Wolf.
Give me Space Wolves.
Okay.
I guess I'll try Word Bearers. I had a list that I was working on a long time ago.
Dag nabbit.
And Jake, what do you have?
I have a Space Wolf list written out, right? You're more.
I may be doing Space Wolves anyway, so.
Next show, so I've got Alpha Legion I put lined up for this show, and I've got Raven Guard, Imperial Fists, and Iron Hands for next show. I've actually got the Imperial Fists list done. I just need to price it out, and then I've got Raven Guard that it makes me cry because the box is just for Raven Guard players who are trying to start the game. I feel so bad for them.
The Mark 6s are good for them.
The
But
Mark 6s are good, but Cataphracti don't get a Legion trait in a Raven Guard army, and a big dumb Spartan full of 10 big dumb dudes who don't get any big dumb rules is not ideal.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. You could, the Mark 6s went on pre-order this week by themselves. So
I think you could use them, because you can use one Praetor for yourself, then another Praetor for an allied unit, and bring in someone else's Terminators.
Yeah.
I think I just broke Jake.
Just bring in Alpha Legion Terminators. I mean, it's the Alpha Legion.
I mean, it fits perfectly from that book, right?
All right. We've done enough dancing around it. If we're going to push forward with second lists, I'm probably more pleased with my list than I am on my 1,000th list.
Why don't you go ahead with that one, because we know you're going to stick with that one.
So we are, as the Alpha Legion, we're playing a false flag. I have picked Coils of the Hydra, and the specific false flag that we're playing is we're out here going to act like Space Wolves, because the Legions know, or at least their Primarchs know, that the Space Wolves have killed others. And nothing's going to freak you out more than, hey, does that look like the Space Wolves on the horizon? Yeah, why do you ask? They look kinda I don't know, angry to you and not the usual, like, hungover kind of angry. So, at 3,000 points, Coils of the Hydra, I brought Armillus Dynat, who is granting himself a flank. He brought with him a chaplain, which you will convert out of the box. That chaplain is also being given outflank by Dynat. So Dynat gets to give up to 3 inf units: Scout, Infiltrate, or I think it's... So I'm picking Scout here because it grants outflank. In my elite slot, I am taking the 10 Cataphracti that come out of the big box, and I've gone to... actually, I don't think I had to go to Pop Goes the Monkey for these. Just do it out of the box. I am turning these into Varigir. So for the chaplain that I mentioned earlier, I would probably sword model, because then I am going to take that monstrous two-handed axe, and I am going to tell players to convert that onto your sergeant for the Varigir squad, because it's allowed to take a Grost Blade. The rest of the squad is going to be 7 models with 1 Power Fist and 1 Frost Claw, because Frost weapons all got reworked this edition. And the last 2 models are going to be Chain Fists and Frost Claws. So all the Frost weapons are now specialist weapons, and they gain Reaping Blow 1. So that means all of these guys are now dual armed, and if you somehow bump into something that's not in a 2-up armor save, you can turn those claws on them. You go to 2 attacks base, 3 for dual arm, 4 for the charge, 5 for Reaping, and the claw still grants shred. So your weapon skill 5, you're only wounding on 4s, but you're just going to generate such an immense volume of wounds that I don't even think enemies have like a 4-up feel no pain, that they're really going to be able to stand. They're riding in a Spartan. That has to start on the table because it's the rule. Subsequently, we've got 2 Grey Slayer teams, the new ones that Space Wolves get. So they come with Fenrisian shields and axes, and I went to Pop Goes the Monkey because they have wonderful selection of different combat shields and different like runic or chain axes. And you can pick those up relatively cheap, especially compared to the Forge World kit, where you have dudes who are wearing paper bags over their heads. I did also buy Artificer Armor on the Sergeants for those Grey Slayer squads, and then I bought them Thunderhammers as well. So while I was at Pop, I did buy a set of Thunderhammers, and I think I reserved one for the earlier chaplain. Looks like I did, to take a Thunderhammer. So what's starting on the table are 2 20-man blocks that have Fenrisian axes, which I think are strength +1 close combat weapons, bolt pistols, and combat shields, as well as a Spartan with 10 super spooky Terminators. What's coming in on a flank assault is a squad of 10 Lernans with Dynat and that chaplain attached. I bought them Power Fists, Chain Fists. If you can find a way to scrounge bits off somebody who, like, maybe they bought a Kratos and they put the las cannon sponsons, and you can steal their Chum Gun, their Volkite sponsons, you can absolutely convert 2 of these guys to be able to carry those, because they've got the conversion beamer bit. The other cool part about Lernan is that they, along with suzerains, are some of the only choices that kept. So you do only have 3 scoring choices, but they should be relatively difficult to shift. I have then, finishing things out, a Contemptor and a Deredeo that are coming in from Walking Robes. It's not ideal, but the Contemptor comes with the las bit in the kit, which is awesome, and the Deredeo, I did buy las cannons and the AO, just so that once they walk on the table, they're a threat. All told, this list is $300 for the big box. Unfortunately, it is $140 to buy both Liber books, so this is probably not advisable unless you want to start an army for both loyalists and traitors. I did, in the initial run-up, even after buying official sculpts for the Lernans and Dynat, and then also buying themed bits from Pop to do the Grey Slayers, I did go ahead and pencil in $70 to buy the Space Wolf and Algin transfers. I spent a total of $108 or so on those axes and shields from Pop. dropped $20 on a set of Thunderhammers. Dynat is a $65 model, which only after putting Armin in a list do I understand like how much I missed. $230 for 10 learn, $104 Daradeo, brings us to $1,037. If you choose only one transfer sheet, you would be basically at $1,000. Or if you said, man, I've got enough molded bits, I'm not worried about a transfer sheet, you could get that cost all the way down.
So what I'm hearing is you're a cheat.
Well,
I'm sorry, what did playing Alpha Legion and buying both $70 books get me?
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. Top Gear Challenge.
Exactly,
mantra.
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Everybody cheats.
he's automatically hindering himself by playing Alpha Legion and taking coils, so he's got to buy both books. So
I didn't have to. I could have like tried to finagle things and buy trader units that had outflank native, and instead use Dynat to or I'm sorry, no, I couldn't have done that. I would have had to have found some really durable trader units to leave on the table, and then left Dynat to outflank some big tactical squads to have all the score. Gun to my head, if I'm looking at like trader units that are going to be tough to dislodge, I would say
How many points were those wolves?
The Space Wolf stuff.
Yeah, points wise.
Points. The Grey Slayer squads ended up coming out to, they're 145 up front, 120 for the next 10 points for the Artificer armor, and 25 points for the Thunderhammer. So that is 265, 275, about 300 points. But they're the only troops choice in the game that you can steal with Coils of the Hydra to start on the table, because New Coils requires your stolen units to start on the table, and everything you did not steal gets kicked into reserves. New Coils is tough because you've got to find 3 units that are really tough to dislodge and hope that your reserves come in fast enough.
yeah, I know my kids really after playing the zone game where he played the suzerains, he's really looking at that he wants a coils unit of suzerains.
Suzerains would go on that short list. You could be like, I don't want to say it super negatively like this. You could take 3 units of 10 suzerains, and they might both durable enough to try to stand up to whatever fire is going to be incoming. And the fact that they score means that you could get away with just taking minimum 10-man tactical, putting those in reserve in a Rhino, and letting those kind of drive up onto your back line and score back there. Certainly an option, but that's what anybody playing Coils really has to be wary of. You put on the table, either got to be able to successfully hide it, or it's got to really be able to take a punch.
Well, and that's not a budget list, because if you're suzerain or what, $1.15 for 5, so if you want to have 30 of them,
yeah, suddenly you're
category at all. So yeah,
chunk of change there.
Well, I like it. It's thematic. I think it definitely is sneaky Alpha Legion-y, and it would look cool.
And it's fluffy.
Yeah,
it's fluffy.
That was part of the hope in when, even though I said, hey, it's going to be over $1,000, there's 2 sets of transfers, so that by the time you chop or the other set, you get basically down to $1,000. So if you want to play this army up as Space Wolves, you can buy that Space Wolf transfer sheet and go nuts. If you want to play this army up as Alpha Lead, you can pivot at transfer other stuff to push the.
Duncan, doesn't happen often.
I'm not really speechless. I'm just kind of wondering how all that would look on the table in my mind.
Well, I mean, there's different ways you could paint it up, right? So, do you paint it up that they are?
Oh, I would absolutely try to emulate the one guy who a couple years ago at Adepticon painted everything for Alpha Legion, and then put chipping fluid in places and painted everything for his Imperial Fists, and then chipped off. I would do that as hard as I could.
Oh yeah, the if you want to paint the army twice, your ceiling for how good that can look is way high, especially with 2 transfer sheets.
Yeah, that's.
So I would say that could save you some money in that regard, because you could skip some of the molded shoulder pads concept You were doing
Yeah,
that.
I didn't
Yeah.
spend on molded shoulders, and I just kind of penciled in to buy shields from Pop. There
Okay.
actually wasn't a whole lot of difference in price going unmarked shields versus super duper Space Wolfy ones. But again, that leaves the door open for your level of convert over or for your taste. If you want to play this as a Space Wolf, you can get really overtly shield.
Yeah, I'd actually like to see that on the table. I really would. I think that'd be fun. I think that'd be fluffy. I think it'd be a little ugly, but I think it sounds fun.
Yeah, you do lose out on some of the traits that, like, those Gray Slayers expect you to have in terms of run and still or assault. But I don't think. It's also at a technical level, you've got enough player agency in there that you could instead spend Dynat's allocation for Scout. You could spend that on the things that start the game on the table. You could leave the Lernaean and you could pivot Chaplain in like a master, whatever other choice you wanted. You could walk them on from the back end of the table, and Lernaeans natively have the option. I think they're the only Terminator to pick a conversion. So you could send either 2 5s or 1 10 back on your back line with conversion from the backfield.
Did you do anything for the Slayers? Did you give them the bolters as well, or no?
No, I just left them pistol CC in combat.
I was going to say, did you find better bolters that you could hack off the underslung sight? And
well, that's why I went to Pop instead of going to Forge World, was so that I didn't invest in kits that have I deliberately was like, all right, we are not going to buy the Varigir, and I know that every Space Wolf player who I've ever met is just like, nope, don't buy the Varigir models.
I know at least one Space Wolf player who has them.
There's a few who bought them saying, oh, they can't really be that bad, and then they got them, and they're like, I've been fooled.
Well, there's upgrade sprees for them too, where you didn't have to like convert the whole model. It was just like axes and shields, and then you don't use the bagheads.
Yes, that's true. If you do prefer the axes and shields out of the Forge World kits, those are actually the ones, not the ones with the misslung bolters.
Yeah, I think they're like $40.
It is
$43.
$45 to convert 5 models. So by the time you did this list, you would be $360 to get 40 of those on the table.
Oh, I know, because like I was looking, my other list that I had was a Space Wolf for tonight, and yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
You're real quick starting to go and look at the Space Wolf, the Gray Slayer box from 40K, and just be like, all right, can I kit bash these onto my Mark 6s?
Yep, exactly.
So did anybody else, before we talk about tonight's winner, did anybody else have another list already prepared before we started tonight's festivities? Was that you, Jamie, who had one more?
I did. I had Space Wolves, but I'm delving at giving somebody else a chance to have a second list.
But that still means we made it through 8 of the 18 legions tonight. We've got some things kind of redistributed and shuffled around for our next episode. Let's take some quick votes and kind of stack up what we had. So coming in at dollar amount, we had Dan's magnificent $700 Sons of Horus. We next had Jack, who was able to pencil in some Death Guard at about $740. And then we have a conspicuous trough, where we then get to my Thousand Sons at about $900. We have Duncan's Leaders at $960. My Alpha Legion with 0 transfers and $67. Jamie's Dark Angels came in at $973. John's Ultramarines at $94. And then my Alpha Legion rest at over.
I will say there's an asterisk with mine. The Dark Angels, I did way 3,000 points.
That is true. That means that at your 973, so I think I said, like, hey, you could chop the Lion out.
That's $155.
Yeah, so that would immediately put you down to, like, 815, 820 range.
Something like that, yeah. And you'd still be over points wise.
Yeah, you'd still be at about 3,100 or so. Yep. It was very impressive.
I think in my mind, the sheer variation and going over 3,000 for less than $1,000, significantly less than $1,000, if you drop the lion, I think my vote's going to go to Jamie.
Well, I had my Space Wolf list that I had was actually even higher point total for under $1,000. It was actually closer, like not going full crazy on the board gear. It was almost 4,800, like right at $900.
We gotta talk about that next show.
I'll let you and Jack compare on that next time, see what we think.
Well, the way I did it, okay, I'm going to throw it out front, is that I bought 2 starter boxes.
That's
okay?
right. And you flipped the book and the Spartan.
Well, if you go just for 3,000 points, okay, if you bought 2 boxes, okay, you flip the book, and then you could flip the. I kept the Spartan actually. I flipped the book, and I've actually flipped the Cataphractii because there's 2 squads of 10.
Oh,
two
yeah.
squads
At
of
about
5.
$50 a pop.
At about $50 a pop, and then if you really if you didn't want to go all high on the hog, you could actually drop the Contemptors too. And that's another. They're probably going to be about $75, like the new one. So
Yep.
So I mean, you could get it way down, just with the 2 boxes, and you'd have a ton of money for fluffy Space Wolf upgrades, and you'd have typical Space Wolf huge ass blobs of guys running edgy wheel or axes.
Yeah, and I think that's also up there with our with one of my initial sketches, which was, hey, if you just bought the starter, bought 4 rhinos, bought your Primarch, you're coming real close to some point army for a lot of different ones.
I think
that ends up about $650, depending on
it depends on the it depends on the Primarch. Some of them are the later ones, like the Khan and Lion, are they're about $20 to $30 more expensive than the early one. But I think I added it up. If you don't use any upgrades, just the starter box straight base points or whatever for 10-man squads, it ended up being 1,505 points or something like that. So it's easy to get over $2,000 out of 200 or 2,000 points when you start adding parts. So 2 boxes is $4,000. That's
well, in absence of protest, I think that puts Jamie as our winner for the night and the front runner possibly for the whole shebang, pulling together over 3,000 points while staying under $1,000. Buying transfers, buying Legion-specific kits, bits, and more. Extremely impressive.
It takes a cheap bastard to know a cheap bastard.
Well, yeah, I can't really disagree there.
Yeah.
Well,
that's me. If you realize how long most of us have been hoarding stuff for armies and stuff. I mean, I've been hoarding Dark Angel stuff for probably 12 years for Horus.
Yep.
So,
I think I floated out to somebody that... I was like, man, I have now played Warhammer, not for as long as you guys have, but I've played Warhammer long enough to see that when Heresy got a $100 box, we were celebrating, and now we're getting a $300 box and we're celebrating.
Yeah, I mean, you got to remember, how many Toys for Tots armies have I built out of those $100 boxes with not adding a whole lot to them, and a lot of those armies are right at 3,000 points.
I just wish I would have bought a lot more of the Dreadnoughts when they came for in a blister for $12.99, the old metal ones.
Back when we were digging metal out of rock. I was putting rocks together and calling them Dreadnoughts.
And if I wasn't using them as models, you could put them in socks and smack the people up the head that are coming to the
Well, I mean, if you're going to go like that, I mean, I could say I wish I had bought how many more Land Raiders when they were $45 to $50 a piece,
Dan, back then, did they actually, had socks been invented yet? Yeah, I know.
Next time I see you, I need to bring one of my Screamer Killer Carnifex.
3 rhinos for $20, was it, Dan?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
2 Land Raiders for $45, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the box?
Something crazy. Yeah.
They were $4.50 a piece, and it was still expensive. I remember when the metal Dreadnought was $30, and then the plastic one came out at $40, and everyone thought it was so great.
Don't make me walk over there and pick up the squat box of 36 squats that I got for $20.
Well, before we get too lost in memory, do we have anything else for this show?
Yes, we do. I think we need to give a couple shout-outs to events, I believe.
We certainly do. I thought I had gotten it confirmed. I suppose I should follow up on that. I think we're still a go for 3,000 points on July 23rd at the Battle Barn. But I think that's probably a little less formal than John. Is your event lined up now?
Yep. So July the 22nd to the 24th, the Forge in Houston, Texas will be presenting The Road to Saul. I am doing the fluff for the main event, which is going to be a big apocalypse game. This is a 2-story place, so what we're doing is we're doing something a little fluffy. So the main floor is going to be Apocalypse, where the under floor is going to be ZM and Centurion games, and you can move between floors during the big Apocalypse game, so it'll be kind of fun that way. I'm working with Michael Harris to make a lot of cool goodies there, so we're going to have, I think he was either shirts or cups. I think he was still working on getting that lined up, but it's a $70 ticket for the 3 days, July 22nd through the 24th. And lucky for me, my work wants me in Austin, Texas, which is a bit of a drive from Houston, but it's a lot less of a drive from Dallas. The day before, so I'm going to get a good break in the gas price from it.
It's helpful.
Wonderful. Do we have any other events to shout out?
Music City Heresy. I believe that's something we should probably mention.
Yeah, NashCon. What's show dates on? Do we have those off the top of our head?
No, because I haven't looked it up yet. Hold on.
Give me a second. I'll grab it. I know they're coming up here in August.
20th and 21st, 19th, 20th, 21st.
Yep. I think specifically the Heresy event is Saturday the 20th. So August 20th, you have NashCon for some Heresy. There might be some Apocalypse or something similar going on the Friday night before the festivities. But I think we've got that there. And as a super early shout out, we do have Michigan GT September 30th through October 2nd. That is, I don't think there's any games actually being played on the 2nd, but typically what Michigan has done has been, actually I think they are doing games on the 2nd. It's the ZM and Centurion, the Friday before that they've decided not to host this year. So, games for sure, I believe, October 1st and 2nd, Saturday and Sunday. And I think that is at the Convention Center in Lansing. We'll hope to see some of these. And
for the first 3 you talked about, I will get stickers out to podcasters that will be there, and so we will have our stickers with our art to hand out available at those events. So
dig it.
Well, and if we hadn't said it on the last show, again, thank you for putting that together, Dan. Very exciting.
No problem. I do have, before we completely sign off, we do have a retraction or correction from the last podcast. So I had mentioned playing my first game with my son, and I had not read all of the console rules, and I did play an illegal Diabolist combination. So I still got my butt whooped, so my kid had to point that out, that he still beat me. But yeah, so I just wanted to point out that having not read all of the rules all the way through, I was incorrect, and a Diabolist is a console upgrade, and you're allowed to only have one console upgrade, so that is not...
Well, we also had a couple other things get pointed out, like Jamie indicating that rhinos had lost their fire points. I think there were a couple others, but I know if we go back over every previous show and point out all of them, I'm sure we'll never make a new show. Spending too much time going back and making sure we're actually...
Yep.
But it was worth talking about to make sure that we've brought people up. I think the loss of fire points on a rhino is going to trip a lot.
I'm having to go.
That was an
back to scratch on my...
institution in the game,
Yeah.
And to see that gone is shocking.
I
Rhino
bet
drive
a
by.
lot of people that have played for a long time will just keep playing it or not realize it's gone if they don't hear it or catch it.
Yeah. If you don't ever read it, how would you ever know?
I mean, I've got three Dark Angel vet squads I'm looking at right now that I've got to pop off a bunch of heavy bolters because, no point at this point.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, those corrections in mind, are we ready for the sign-off?
Probably we are. Anyone else got anything you want to bring up?
I might be seeing Duncan next week.
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. We're working on it.
Jamie, don't dox yourself on the show like that. I'm going to have to edit that out.
I mean, I can bear it all here right now if you want me to on video.
So you're
We're
going to
an
come see Duncan,
audio-only
but you're not going
show.
to come see me? I see how it is now.
We're an audio-only show. How are you going to bear it all? You know what? No, I don't need to think about how you're going to bear it all over the sound waves. That will definitely get us
the
taken off
ability
the air.
to give. I have the ability to give a very vivid description of horrific things
I'm good. I think we're all good.
and sound effects.
I think it's
And
time to take a
And on that note,
I have been Jacob, and I have been joined by...
Dan.
Duncan.
Jack.
John.
Jameson.
And we'll catch you next time. Have a good one.